Welcome back to another episode of Now We Know. I'm Donna Polk.
I'm Jonathan Stokes, and today we're talking about Bayard Rustin. We should start by saying Happy Pride Month to all the LGBT, the G's, the B's, the T's. Maybe I'll actually say the letters right. Happy Pride Month
Happy
to
Pride
all
Month.
family, all allies, all that. Shout out to y'all.
Shout out to you.
Well, I can't give myself props. It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is an odd time to be celebrating Pride Month right now, just because of all the weird stuff. I really thought we were done around the time that we were like, well, let's just let people go to the bathroom
Yeah.
when they need to go to the bathroom. And I guess that's still ongoing. But all that being said, there's this resilience within the community. Not that I love that we have to have it, but we do indeed have it. And there's this camaraderie and this family that gets formed automatically. And it feels like magic, and maybe it is a little bit, but it's nice to see our us all sticking together. At least it feels like that. Maybe that's just my side, and maybe there's calamity happening in other queer realms that I don't know about, but I'm glad I don't know about it because it sure makes Pride Month feel nice. So
Yeah.
shout out to everybody. Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month.
Let's talk about Rustin's gay ass.
That is one way to introduce the topic of the day or the topic of this month. So we're talking about Bayard Rustin, who is a lesser known figure in the political activist space. He did work alongside Martin Luther King and insert basically any big name that you can think of. He was there, but unfortunately in the shadows. Essentially, Bayard was a gay man and he had to hide himself from that. And then also being a gay Black man, which really was like a double whammy, especially I think in the Black community. And so we decided for this month we would highlight Bayard Rustin and watch the movie Rustin that is on Netflix to document part of his life and just kind of give our takes. And then as our resident gay Black man, Jonathan, in the month of Pride, we figured this would be a good time to honor them both.
Her. So what did you think of Rustin?
The
First and
movie or
foremost.
the person?
The movie.
The movie was okay.
We'll talk about the movie. Yeah.
I feel like every time we watch a movie, I say the movie was okay. It's like the content, the information is good. It didn't captivate me or hold my attention as much as I was hoping it would, that's probably also not a great way to start the episode. But yeah. But truth being, I got distracted a couple times, and I had to restart it once.
I understand why. I think obviously this is a movie and a story that should be told, but it definitely felt like something that 15 years ago. Great. It's like the tone and the rhythm and the feeling of the movie is just slightly, antique.
Yeah.
And it just rolls like your typical biopic, you know what I mean? Like, but I was really grateful for the information that it shared, and I was really grateful for the Coleman Domingo performance. I thought he did a great job.
He
always does a good job.
Yeah.
The cast felt slightly theatery, not in a bad way, just like they were playing to the back of the house in a way that I was like, okay, this is a movie, all caps, exclamation point. This is for four quadrant. This is for families that are sitting on the couch together type stuff, as opposed to like an intimate character study that I think I was looking for, especially with Coleman Domingo's skill.
Yeah, and having Chris Rock in there too was kind of like, wait a minute. Yeah, it just was a surprise.
Yeah. It's like when you have Wendy Williams come out as Big Mama Morton in Chicago on Broadway. It's like, okie doke, you could get them, so they're here.
Yeah.
Though I can't poo-poo Chris Rock's acting or attempts at serious acting, because I've seen him do great stuff.
Hmm.
So, but something about his voice, I'm like, that wasn't invented in the 60s. That
Right.
doesn't, like, that voice hinges on a couple of decades of entertainment to
Yeah.
like form. Anyway, yeah, the movie was meh. But at least it gave a little bit of insight into who Bayard Rustin was.
Hmm.
And so that was cool. I also want to add that I went to Memphis, and at their Civil Rights Museum, they had a special exhibit specifically around Bayard Rustin and his collections.
Oh, that's awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
it was so cool. Um, he liked rings and things. I said yes.
Hmm.
Again, family. And he loved a cane, a nice decorative wooden cane, books and music and robes and fabrics and all these kind of things. He was really an artsy kid,
Hmm.
you could tell. And so being able to just kind of walk around and the way they had it curated, to feel as if it was laid out in a private quarter was
Hmm.
interesting. Got you into his interior, his journals, the amount of passports and IDs.
Mm.
Man, like, brother,
Yeah.
like, it's a lot going on. But it was cool to see. It was really cool to see. So then having that memory and then seeing the movie and then reading up a little bit about him, I'm getting this full person, and I don't think about him in the way that I think about an MLK, which is like damn near like a biblically accurate
Yeah.
savior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think about Bayard Rustin as one of the girls.
Yeah.
And it's really refreshing to have such a perspective on somebody. I don't know if you've had this where there's like a historical figure that you're just like, I could see where you're coming from, exactly where you're coming from. I can tell because I've thought the way that you've thought, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
or I've collected the rings and the things, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, have you ever had somebody come up in a history class where you're like, oh, girl, yeah,
Not not that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm like, have I related to someone so much? Not from a historical figure, no. I think that
sure,
I've seen that just like in my regular life with like I remember what was that lady's name? I think her name was Liz. Anyway, she was like a VP of sales or something like that for the corporate company of this franchise that I worked for. Like they franchise Marriott properties, and I worked at one of the properties. And so one day she like came into the office, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a black woman in a VP role, and I just wanted to be friends with her. So
yeah,
like, I've had that kind of relation, but not
yeah.
necessarily from, like, a historical figure, but, like, if we're talking about, like, big wigs of people, like, that's she's that for me.
Yeah, no, this is the same thing. And people experience this with writers and,
Yeah.
oh, this song, I could have written this song, it's about me, type, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It is that. It's that connection that you feel. This one just so happens to be someone who was involved with politics, which I would never really identify
Yeah.
with somebody involved with politics. And also, um, it's someone whose history, whose work came first, and then whose history came later, and the history just kind of like is something that I'm so familiar with,
Mhm.
or like have a more of a context for. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that maybe this movie did come out at the right time, because without this amount of public conversation about queer life and queer existence within our culture, the nuances that this movie can't afford to focus on because it's only an hour and 45 minutes or
Yeah.
whatever, it's understood by the audience already. So you have the shorthand for certain things, like the glances with Elias,
Mm.
the preacher.
Yeah.
It's like, that would have taken a lot more work had it not been for all the conversations that we're having now
Right.
about queer folks. So actually, I take back my antiquity comment. The girlie is right on time. You're damn near Marty Supreme.
Right.
Like, it's actually right. Sorry, thinking it out on this conversation. But
No, I think
anyway,
that's good.
I'm so glad to have met Bayard Rustin. I think, um I hope that he's being taught in schools now. I don't know when that would happen. Maybe high school.
Probably if so, I think about this with my son too, because I think about all the things that you and I are learning together or expanding our knowledge upon. And I think about the things that like what my son is or isn't learning in school, but also like he's
Mhm.
only about to be in fourth grade. But I
Sure.
think fourth grade was like that pivotal moment where you start getting like more history, I want to say, to some degree. Like for some reason, that kind of resonates with me. And so I don't think they're going to be talking about Bayard Rustin,
Yeah.
but I think they're going to be maybe talking about maybe the founding of America and, you know, all of that crap. And so I'm like, I got to get ahead of the potential whitewashing of the education that he's going to be receiving. But yeah, I don't remember learning about Bayard in school. Mm-mm.
Never, please. No, that's a placard at a museum type thing.
Yeah.
But maybe with this movie, it'll be
Mhm.
different. So I'm interested to see how that unfolds. Well, maybe we have to wait a little bit longer because remember the Department of
Oh,
Education,
yeah.
the
It's
World
dissolving.
Wrestling Education Federation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, books are probably done for. But you know what? We at least know we could pass it on. The oral tradition of being black.
Yes. Yes.
Um, okay, so we've talked about the movie a bit. Let's get into Bayard as a person, shall we?
We shall.
Born in Pennsylvania, 1912. He was part of a huge family. What was he, 9 out of 12? Is that right?
Something like
Um,
that. He did have a large family, but and they were all
yeah,
raised by their grandparents too, which is wild.
yeah. His mother was young, um, 16, which blows my mind if
Mhm.
she already had kids. Um, but I'm sure, this happened. Um, but he thought his mom was his sister for
Mhm.
for a period of time, which I think is
Fair.
probably another thing that I relate to because I don't know if I've shared this on the podcast or anything, but I'm adopted. My adoptive mom adopted me when she was 40, but my birth mom was an early teen, maybe 14.
Mm.
Like this is also part of my like we're starting at where he was born and
Yeah.
I'm already in this and there's a little bit of an adoption story,
Yeah.
so there's so much Bayard, and he's just so interesting. Now I know that he grew up a Quaker,
Mhm.
which The Testament of Ann Lee is a movie on Hulu right now, about the Quaker movement, the start of it.
Mm.
um it is so, I don't think that you would like, I don't think a lot of people will like it. I don't think a lot of people liked it, but I had just seen it, and so learning that he was also a Quaker in a black frame, okay, interesting. Their thing is that everyone in the household holds equal responsibility for the household,
Mm.
um which I actually think is pretty interesting. And it's interesting to think that a black family was living that way, and seeing down the line what politics that turned into kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I remember in my school district growing up, because I grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and there would be Quaker days because I
Hmm.
think Quakers must have had a good amount of influence over in Ohio also.
What was Quaker Days?
I feel like we made stuff from hand, like by hand, or gosh, I'd really have to look back, or like ask somebody because I don't remember entirely, but I do remember there being Quaker days and it was like I don't want to say a day off of school, but it was like you know when you have like a field day or like some activity that's school wide and everybody's participating, it was like one of those.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's interesting. I'm chewing on that as a concept. And like I'm wondering just when that started and what it started as and how it turned into arts and crafts. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, it was definitely in elementary school. I remember that. I don't remember it outside of elementary school. I hope I'm not making this up from like a dream I had, but I'm
Well,
99% sure this is real.
I'm gonna bet that it was weird. If it sounds weird, it probably happened to us in the early 2000s. Like,
Like Shaker Quakers, like I remember the
mhm.
rhyming piece of it too. So I don't think it was a
I think
dream.
I think that's interesting. I'm sure I know that there's a lot of biographies and journals that one could read to learn more about specifically Bayard Rustin's Quaker
Right.
experience, and his family and stuff like that.
It very well could be
And
one of those things where people say, I'm Christian, and then you're like, well, what kind of Christian? You know?
right.
So,
But
anyway.
well, what I'm going to, and that is like, well, yeah, I guess actually what kind of Christian would be a good question because his coming out story, which was repeated in the movie and has been repeated all over, is that, he just told his grandma that he was interested in boys, basically,
Mhm.
interested in spending time with boys. And she said, well, I suppose that's what you need to do. And it could, that little TikTok uh meme or whatever. Wow, I'm so millennial. That TikTok trend where people are taking the phrase and saying it as sarcastic and disappointed and
Oh,
flirty.
mhm.
I could hear, I suppose that's what you need to do in each of those
Oh,
tones.
that's
And
funny. The
so
disappointed, happy, flirty, angry. Yeah.
yeah, in my mind it's the supportive,
Yeah.
and I think that's a really encouraging way to hear that I see who you are from
Mhm.
someone who maybe isn't so thrilled about who you are,
Mhm.
you know and also it gives agency to the person. Like it, I suppose that's what you need to do. It's your life, you've identified what you want to do. Who are me to tell you no? And I
Right.
think that gives Bayard Rustin a vote of confidence that I'm sure already exists in different ways. Like he sang and he wrote poetry and all these things, but I think also just the be yourself push is amazing, especially during that time.
Mhm.
So of course he was a little bit strange.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of interesting the positioning that he had with a couple people, right? Was it like 2 or 3
Mm.
people where they're almost cosplaying as straight men, and
Ooh.
they have these interactions with Bayard, and all of a sudden it's like the interest and the intrigue and then, like,
Mm-hmm.
moving closer and then getting into, like, a kiss, you know? And I thought about, like, the like black culture generally speaking, or the black community being a black gay man, and you'll obviously know better than I do, but being a black gay man and then making of all people someone who's a preacher or pastor or whatever cross that line into, whatever his real sexuality is, like that seemed to be pretty powerful to me and profound.
Well, quite literally.
Yeah. Oh, yes. No pun intended, but it was ballsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Bayard Rustin was a slut. I think Bayard Rustin was hot. I think he was sex positive,
Yeah.
and I think his confidence exuded somewhere safe for people to go.
Mhm.
It's like if he's exuding this confidence, I'm about to go down a rabbit hole, but just walk with me here.
I'm
But
here.
if Bayard exuded confidence in exactly who he was, in his queerness, in his political beliefs, in all the things that he believed, liked, and wanted, and allowed room for him to change his mind when presented with new information,
Yeah.
if he was exuding that, of course he was doing that in the shadows, at this bar, at this hour. You know what I mean? We can do
Mhm.
this, whatever. Um, but somebody who is dealing with a struggle with those things that he's so freely accepted is going to see him accepting that and say, you know what, at least I can express it with him because he don't even think it's weird. I think it's weird, but he doesn't think it's weird,
Right.
so I'm gonna do that. This can also become something where people start to feel anxious after they've had their experience.
Mm.
All right, they didn't feel weird. They made me feel comfortable for however long we spent together. Maybe having sex, maybe just drinking at the bar, but whatever it was, I felt most like myself in that moment. And now that I'm outside of that moment and I'm not with this person who was safe, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out because they told me that was wrong and I knew it was wrong and I shouldn't have done it. Da, 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 da. So I bring up that aspect because I have gone down a rabbit hole of true crime. It's terrible. The feds are getting me, man. I started watching on YouTube interrogation videos, specifically men who killed their gay lover to hide up their affair.
Oh,
There is
wow.
no shortage of the content.
Yeah.
There is no shortage of this type of crime.
Mm.
And so I'm watching these interrogation videos because obviously we know what happened. It's watching them try to weasel out of accountability, and then seeing the people, the witnesses or whatever, explain how they would interact, the victim and the
Yeah.
killer, how they would interact. And it just all it's always the same. It's like one person was extremely ashamed of who they actually were, the other person was not. They felt comfortable enough until the other person, who wasn't uncomfortable with themselves, said, I want more.
Yeah.
I deserve to have a real relationship. Or simply, one of them was terrible. It was a 24-year-old who killed his 17-year-old boyfriend because the 17-year-old boyfriend had become platonic friends with someone who he met on Grindr. And so it's just all insecurity. It's that toxic
Yeah.
masculinity, that partner ownership. It's just abuse. It's that abuser
Yeah.
freak out, whatever. But he killed the 17-year-old over that. And then he's a preacher's child. He's like a micro celebrity in the pastoral circuit,
Of course.
whatever the hell that is,
Yeah.
and he has to present in this certain way. And you just see it when they're sitting in the room, them working through all the ways that they can still be right about this thing, because they've been taught that the way that they reacted was how they're supposed to react.
Yeah.
The gay panic shit from
Yeah.
Jenny Jones, like, this whole idea has been substantiated,
Yeah.
by law, that it's okay for you to freak out because they're weird anyway. And so imagine you feel nice. You're getting you're getting your back rubbed by your new hookup or whatever, and it's the first time you've ever felt a tender hand. Oh yeah, I'm coming back and beating your ass. What the hell? You're telling me this other world exists?
Yeah.
I'm crazy. I'm insecure. You're gone.
Yeah.
And it's so anyway, I bring all that up because that was an aspect that was covered in the movie slightly,
Hmm.
about how what was his name, Elias Taylor, the preacher, ended up impregnating his wife, and the wife knew about their relationship, and
Yeah.
she knew who he was, and she knew that society could not accept him as he was. And so she, in some ways, was protecting him from the world, but also shielding him from who he could possibly be.
Yeah.
So she was also threatened by a Bayard because he don't give a fuck about that. He's not embarrassed by his queerness.
Right.
He's actually pretty successful while existing within it. And so it's like this battle that everybody's having with, how much of myself can I be? And Bayard's like, I don't know, but you tell me when you figure it out. I'm gonna go get some
Yeah.
rings and go get some canes and go lead some marches and carry on about my business. It's such a fascinating thing. Sorry. And I guess it's the pride myth of it all. Why not watch some gay true crime? Figure out what's wrong with all these people. And I guess the answer is society. I'd say also mental health and other things,
That
but
too.
but it starts with that seed planted by society saying, no, you can't do that. That's perverted. That's meant that, that's something wrong. You're
Yeah.
wrong. It's crazy.
I don't think this is something that you've ever shared on the podcast, but and if you want, I'll edit it out. But I'm curious to
Sure.
know, how did you come out and when did you know?
So, like Bayard, I didn't have a choice. I was always out. I did formally come out my senior year of high school. Actually, yeah, I'm fine with sharing the story. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. But I went to Catholic school. I was in the theater department and had a great time. I was in a lot of extracurriculars, but um, I was also involved in the senior retreat, which is a religious retreat. I think it was like 3 or 4 days. And I went on one, and then I ended up becoming a leader on the next one. So, and when you're a leader of these religious retreats, you give a speech, and then you also manage the small group conversations about the topics of the day. And I think you have like 3 of those in a day. I really can't remember, but you get the idea.
Hmm.
So First of all, my speech was about knowing yourself. So that would have been the opportunity to come out.
Yeah.
That should have been the opportunity to come out. And also, I kind of feel like they put the queer person in that role if they see signs of them wanting to accept their queerness. They're like, let's have them know themselves in front of everybody and see what's up. You know what I mean? Like, it felt
Yeah.
antagonistic
Yeah.
slightly. Of course, like, this is in hindsight. Like, when I was in it, I was just like, yeah, I get to do a speech and do a thing. You know
Right.
what I mean? Whatever. But looking back, I'm like, come on. Like, knowing yourself, assholes. And I don't even know, was Glee even out? I don't know. Maybe it was the first year of
Maybe,
Glee,
yeah.
but like, we were in a world where, like, the year before this happened, there was like class meetings going on about using gay as a derogative wow, derogatory term.
Hmm.
um but anyway, so on this retreat, when I was leading it, we had these prayer sessions, and it's a pretty emotional night. You go into a chapel, it's all dark. You've been in the woods for a day or two, and they in the candlelight, and I feel like there's music, but I'm not sure. They start to read you letters from people in your life, usually parents, but sometimes it's just somebody who had something magnificent to say. Emotional manipulation.
Yeah.
And so everyone's sobbing. And, sometimes there's amazing letters, and some people's letters weren't so amazing. And some people's letters were written by teachers, because their family want to participate. And there's a lot of reasons why. I actually am grateful for that retreat because I felt like it gave me the best understanding of why people act the way they do,
Mm.
because I was learning so much about them, including the
Yeah.
class bully and all that. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. I get it. Um, but after this experience, you get your emotional letter, beautiful words said, and you're just feeling so confident. Some people are confident in their religious, but I was just like, you know what? Like, I feel confident because these beautiful words are written to me about myself. I'm getting all this support and love. This is the place. I'm just going to start saying it out loud because I am who I am. I've always been who I was, and whatever. And I decided that I'm gonna say it first to the woman who kind of shepherded me through high school theater, the wife of our theater director, our chaplain, who I used to sing with every mass, and all the musical things. Like, this lady and I were like that.
Hmm.
And so she's running a confessional style conversation. There's a lot of stuff that gets pulled up, and so kids have opportunity to express themselves. And I tell her I'm gay, and I'm excited to go on after high school and kind of just be myself as much as possible and whatever I said. And she starts crying and asks me if my two queer friends molested me.
That is the last place I thought that this was going. Wow.
So that was my first coming out. And I was like, oh, you're off your rocker. It was heartbreaking. And actually, I don't even know if I've told those friends because they also had relationships with her. So we'll see if they listen to the podcast. But yeah, that is that is what that is what my coming out story was. Outside of that, I wrote letters to my best friends and just said, you know what it is. One guy was surprised, but I think it was because he wasn't ready to come out
Mm.
himself. And so, I was like, but I've always been the way I'm acting, the way I talk, the things I've been interested in. Not much has changed. I was
Mm.
just telling my husband the other day, that like I'm playing a video game, and I'm like, it's the same as playing Barbies. It's just playing Barbies, but this one goes kicky punchy. Like, it's all the same thing, which is the same thing as playing house in the all the things that we denote to a feminine person,
Sure.
whatever. I was interested in all that when I was young. So I don't think anyone was shocked when I was like, oh, yeah, I'm also going to be a sexual being and I'm not going to play around with people's daughters. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my coming out story. Now I'm like, I don't know if we should share all that, but we'll talk. We'll figure this out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm
Yeah,
sorry they responded that way. That's wild.
it's crazy, but also that gave me a clearer understanding of the business of a religion,
Mm,
as
yeah.
opposed to the spirituality that I was engulfed in at the time. If I'm supposed to be with this benevolent being, which I still, we may talk God sometimes here, and I still claim agnostic, but it's just because I can't the bylaws that go within religion. I'm like, no, I don't think that this works for me.
Yeah.
I don't think this works for me. I can't do a sacrament. The sacrament of marriage is not allowed because I love who I love.
Right.
Oh, that's weird. Because I thought, oh boy forgives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, and also just like people now that call being queer a sin, or we love them through their sin and stuff like that. It's like, sin where? What are you talking
Yeah.
about? What are you talking about? Like, it's it just exposed so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all right away. I was in religious psychosis. I'm coming out. I'm feeling good because of my
Mm-hmm.
religious psychosis. I'm manic enough to come out. And then immediately, and luckily I didn't like internalize it as anything wrong with me,
Right.
but I was like, oh, this motherfucker's crazy. Oh, they're crazy. Oh, we're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We need help.
Yeah.
We're stranded in the woods. Oh, okay,
Reading
okay, okay,
letters
okay.
and being asked if one of your friends molested you, and that's why you're
Right,
gay. Right. Yeah.
right. Like I was like, oh, this is psycho.
Yeah.
And it all happened right there. And then I got bit by a what could it be, a brown recluse? I don't know, but I launched into a fever and it was terrible. I had
Oh,
this
wow.
bruise and it was going outside of the drawn circle, so everybody was panicking. Lord, yeah, what a time.
What a time.
Do you want to talk about Bayard Rustin?
Yes, we can get back to Bayard.
So anyway, we went on a whole side quest there. Let's bring it back to Bayard really quick. Um, let's go to the Montgomery bus boycotts,
Yes.
where he that's where he really juiced up MLK Jr.
Yes. And using a lot of his Quaker background, which were people who basically believed in being pacifists. So they were strong on nonviolence, and that was something that Rustin really believed in, which also aided into Dr. King as being really, really a nonviolent activist. And so Rustin basically provided Dr. King with a deeper understanding of what those nonviolent ideas and tactics could be when really Dr. King only had a familiarity with Gandhi. And we all know Mahatma Gandhi, right? Like, I mean, we should. Rustin later recalled the glorious thing is that he came to a profoundly deep understanding of nonviolence through the struggle itself and through reading and discussions which he had in the process of carrying on the protests. King recognized that the advantages of Rustin's knowledge, his contacts, and organizational abilities, and invited him to serve as his advisor. Well aware that Rustin's background would be controversial, his background being that he's gay and he's a black man, to other civil rights leaders. And as King's special assistant, Rustin assumed a variety of roles, including proofreader, ghostwriter, philosophy teacher, and nonviolence strategist.
Um, I want to rewind slightly about his queerness getting in the way of some of his work.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was one of the better scenes. I mean, the movie scenes, because it's Coleman Domingo, spectacular. But one of the more touching scenes, or scenes that got me emotionally shaken, was when he walks into his office and they hear on the radio information about his arrest in Pasadena.
Mm.
Um, in what year was that? I wrote it down. 1953. Um, I looked it up. They have the arrest record online. And I mean, of course, in the movie, he's terrified. Everything goes dark. It turns into a music video because he's panicking. And in real life, Bayard, you were in there sucking on two men in the back seat of their car on the corner of the street. Two.
Okay,
One was
so
in the
when they said
front.
that
One was in the
I didn't
front
realize it
seat.
was 2, I thought it was 1.
Maybe one was in the front seat. One was in the back, according to the police report.
Wow.
So he was just having a good time. He
Yeah.
was just having a good
I mean, haven't we all
time.
gotten some in the back of a car once or twice?
I
Like,
mean, and then also, when did he get his teeth knocked out? He was probably just using his new powers. He was like, it won't get in the way.
Sean.
So, anyway,
His new powers.
look, it's a superhero movie. Um,
That reminds me of this
but
video that I
yeah,
saw of this lady who was talking about being a natural beauty. And she's like, "You want natural? I got natural." And mind you, she has no teeth. She's like, "I got my natural gums." And
I mean, somebody loves it.
somebody
Somebody
loves
loved
it.
it, and
Anyway,
those two men were interested in that.
yeah.
And I also wonder, because of there was something in the report about him suggesting to the men if they wanted to have a good time. Everyone confessed. All three of the men were arrested for homosexuality, lewd acts, whatever. But he's the black one. They were two white men.
Mm,
But I wonder too if he was doing some survival sex work, or
mm,
if he was just getting down with the get down.
yeah.
So I don't know. Um, I'm sure that that's written about somewhere.
Maybe.
I just
Yeah.
haven't read the book. So if you know, send it my way. Um, but yeah, I thought that was really interesting, especially because at the time, please nobody know about this. And to hear it on the radio while
Right.
you're walking into people who revere you, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
that sucks. How are you going to tell them that you were sucking on two and got
I
arrested
mean,
with
you gotta
both?
say that. It's just like whatever. What is it? Lewd conduct or something that you said, or
Hmm.
disorderly conduct, I guess.
Well, I mean, they're not going to say it on the radio, but in the
Oh.
room, somebody's going to be like, "Well, what happened?"
Mm,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And then Coleman Domingo, I was giving someone a hug. You know, he has that Greg Gruff voice.
Yeah.
It's like that sounded not like Coleman Domingo,
Right.
and I'm so sorry. In my head, it worked, but in practice,
That's
here we
okay.
are. um, let's see, and then he goes on to continue his work beyond MLK Jr. I know that he, at the end of the movie, they mentioned that he, in 1977, fell in love with his partner who was with him until the end of his life.
Hmm.
But I will say one thing that I thought was pretty interesting, that wasn't covered in the movie, and I would need to do more research on to learn about the details here. But apparently his political leanings started to sway further and further away from the movement that he was so pivotal in starting,
Yeah.
um, which I wonder what that is, and I wonder what the reasons are. um, and maybe it's just evolution. Again, he was always open-minded and open to changing his mind when new information was presented,
Hmm.
but he was called a traitor. I think that maybe he started getting more political interests, um, and started choosing things that weren't for the greater good,
Mm.
basically. Um, which brings me to Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett came to St. Louis to endorse Wesley Bell, who was running for Congress against Cori Bush
Mm.
again. Um, and if you're not familiar, okay, Cori Bush was our representative for Missouri District 1, and she is an activist. She's of the people. I remember meeting her in like 2016, 2017 at Pride Fest. Just I was like, it was like her and like five people with purple shirts on. And then she had this momentum because she was saying all the right things,
Mm.
and doing the right things. And unfortunately, the powers that be didn't like that. And so, upon time for reelection, he got $14 million for his campaign from APAC,
Mm.
which, if you go over to APAC's Instagram, you will see him both shucking and jiving. Um, Underneath the APAC logo, it with his little twisties. It is just And I wonder if Bayard Rustin did one of those kind of things. It's like, you know
Mm,
what? Safety and money, safety
yeah.
and comfort, integrity be damned. Or maybe he really did change his mind. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to bring up Jasmine Crockett though, because there was a huge disappointment in her coming to St. Louis to endorse Wesley Bell,
Yeah.
and it was exposed through a phone recording from a private house party, out in some big house looking for donors, whatever. Um, but for her to be who she is in the media and to not support Cori Bush is it's just interesting. And she's also, I don't know if this has been confirmed, but she APAC down. She
Mm,
won't. She wasn't even saying genocide. So it's just disappointing
yeah.
to see that turn, and I think that may have been the type of feeling of disappointment when Rustin started to sway away from where he had so firmly stood.
Right.
And yeah, I feels that as a modern day person that is dealing with the idea of people buying out elections
Hmm.
on just in buying out people without without any kind of thought for the greater good. It's interesting.
It,
Anyway, I hope I made a point somewhere in there.
I think it's one of those things where you get closer to power in a sense, or you're like holding more power. And I mean, this could be very conspiratorial, but
Might as well.
might as well. And there are people that believe that there is a, and by people, I can't say I disagree. There are things that go on that we don't know about and that
Yeah.
we're not supposed to know about and we
Yeah.
probably don't want to know about. And so
Yeah.
I can imagine that the more power that you get, the more or the higher that you go politically or whatever, you have access and knowledge to things that the majority of the world will never truly know as fact. And so I
Yeah.
wonder if it could be something like that with Rustin and what he experienced or what he saw, and that could maybe bring a change of heart.
Mm. That's interesting. It's like being a witness protection person, but you're too public, so you can't disappear.
Yeah, I
I
guess
I
so.
hope that's what Nicki Minaj is going through right now. I
Oh
hope she
yeah.
just saw something. I hope she just they were like, okay,
This is
well,
how
you
you,
saw
yeah,
it, so
this is how you stay
now we're
safe.
pivoting. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. One could hope, but
Mhm.
people also just change their mind.
Yeah. Getting to learn about Bayard Rustin also made me think about James Baldwin and
Hmm.
just his own, plight being a black gay man here in America. And then we did have an episode on him was it last year? Or we've had an episode on him. I can't remember when, but we did talk about James Baldwin and, he eventually just up and left. He's like, all right, adios, motherfuckers. I'm going
Yeah.
out to Europe. But I'm pretty sure I want to say that he lived either the rest of his life in France or he spent a good long time there. And I wonder if Rustin could have, if that might have been, something that he wanted to do too, or could have gotten to in the later years of his life where it's like, okay, I've had enough of you guys. Like, I've done enough and I'm just going to go live my life in the way that I want to.
I want to say that he actually kind of did.
Mm,
Just from his the exhibit that I saw,
mm,
um, he had citizenship. I forget exactly where. But he did travel. Okay. So yeah, he was in India, he'd go to Africa, of course, Southeast Asia, the Middle East. Like he was a little bit all over as kind of a voice around the world. Mostly preaching nonviolence and
mhm,
helping people understand that the civil rights movement, but also collecting his rings and things. I think
mhm.
that he also just kind of liked being out. um and he collected a lot of things from those places.
Bayard was so influential in the civil rights movement, so much so as really encouraging Dr. King to put on the March on Washington. And we all know if we didn't have the March on Washington, we wouldn't have the Civil Rights Act, we wouldn't have the, I almost said luxuries, but we wouldn't have life as we know it right now. But we're about to have life as they knew it in a minute, considering the current
Mm,
administration. But I digress. So the impact that Bayard has really had, again, from like the shadows in a sense, and or just like not being recognized in the way in which he should have been, it's really incredible. It's almost kind of similar, not to make it about Black women in the civil rights movement, which we've talked about many. It's similar to Black women kind of being put into the shadows and having basically straight Black men be the voice of the movement while everyone else is kind of doing the heavy duty things behind the scenes.
yeah. I mean, there's many such cases of somebody who, for whatever reason, can't
Mm,
get the spotlight. And what a stupid reason that he's gay. You know what I
right.
mean? Like, what a dumb reason. And also, did you mention this before, or am I just kind of lost in words? But the fact that the threat of a rumor being started about MLK and Rustin being together being a reason that things really fell apart for the people, I think that just says a lot.
Yeah.
I think that just says so much about the way that people feel about homosexuality.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's not new, but it sure has made up. Like,
Right.
like it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, I think that Rustin as somebody who now for me is like just a historical figure who is just a deep well to mine. I think for him having the film and having his name out there and having people understand who he is and the work that he's done is going to do wonders for all those people that are in the background, the 20 feet from stardom people who are writing the laws and changing the game and organizing and all these things. So I would hope that we're going to learn more about people that did that, because it couldn't just be the one person who is at the podium,
Right.
and hopefully learn about all the other amazing things that other people have done. But I'm glad that Bayard is here and in our face and has exhibits and movies and is being respected and won these medals and it gets all this honor because God, imagine what he would have done if they just had that going on when he was still alive.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I I'm glad that we learned about him. I know that there's so much more. It's actually kind of like scary just because he documented a lot. He has albums. He has
Right.
albums. Like this is such an interesting person. So anyway, that's it for Rustin, for me at least. I think we just leave it here and say happy Pride Month and can't wait for the next one.
Happy Pride Month. We will see you all on the next one.